So do you know how many Bluetooth speakers out there have LDAC? LDAC is a form of wireless audio transmission that transmits 3 times the amount of data, 3 times the bit rate of regular Bluetooth. And there are very few manufacturers out there who will bake LDAC as a form of transmission protocol into their portable speakers. Estelle and Kern, they made one. I think the Sony SRS X99 was also an LDAC speaker. Well, this particular guy here, the Soundcore Motion X600, is another. It has LDAC. Now you will need an Android device to be able to unlock the LDAC, but once you do, you get a much higher bit rate capable of transmitting high-res audio through Bluetooth over to this speaker. Now, that is not all there is to it. The speaker has a few tricks up its sleeve, and if I were to cut the story short and to give you an upfront summary, is that this is a good buy. So I do give my upfront summary in most of my videos. If you do appreciate it, thumbs up. The soundstage coming from this speaker is incredibly wide, and the bass that is held by a passive radiator at the back is incredibly big for a speaker of this size. Now, look at it. I mean, it is just barely 30 centimeters across, and it stands only about maybe 15 to 20 centimeters high, 15 centimeters high, including the handle. The whole construction is made of metal. I mean, except for the panel, which is probably plastic and the bottom, but it's a very well constructed piece of equipment right here. You can also stereo pair a pair of Soundcore Motion X600 so that you can get true wireless stereo, but I doubt you will actually need it because the wide stereo soundstage from this speaker coming from one of this alone is actually incredibly wide, unreasonably wide for a speaker of this size and this dimension, weighing in at only just 2 kg. I mean, it is not light by any means, but well, highly portable. But what really stands out for this particular speaker is the amp and the EQ. Now, if you've got some time, stay around, let me go through. So Soundcore is actually a new audio branch out of Anker. Anker is a brand that has been around. They have been producing some pretty good cables, pretty good chargers, and I have trusted the brand for quite a while. And the thing about their product, it is according to spec and it's very reliable. So when I heard about Soundcore, I thought, hey, maybe why not try out some of the speakers? Now, I've seen some of the previous Soundcore products. They kind of look generic, but this is not generic. The Motion X600 looks like a very deliberate design, a very well-designed pair of speakers. No, not pair, it's just one, but it houses 5 drivers, right? There are 2 bass drivers right in front. These are actually coupled with a passive radiator at the back of it. So there is a elliptical shape passive radiator at the back, which will help augment the bass quite a bit. And then there are 2 tweeters. Now these 2 tweeters are angled off to the sides. Oh, sorry, coming back to the bass drivers, they are actually angled slightly upwards. Now, why do you want to angle upwards? Because this is a spatial audio monster. So when you hear the sound coming out from this machine here, you're going to hear it really wide. Now, when you talk about spatial audio, you cannot help but think of 3D audio. So how do you get height effect? So now if you could just take a closer look at this, there is actually a sky driver right at the top of the speaker, angled aggressively upwards, just 15 degrees off the vertical, and it throws sound upwards. Now, to enable spatial audio, there is a button to press, and to enable bigger bass coming out of this small little speaker, there is also another button to press. Now, I'll go through that in just a little bit. So Soundcore has been producing some other speakers, and I don't really like them because of the design, right? They look a little bit too generic. It looked like any other Asia-based manufacturer would come up with. It looks like a rip-off design from one or another, but the Soundcore Motion X600 looks completely different. It does not look generic. It is actually very well engineered, very well made, well put together. Now, if they keep going, I think it's a good thing. The bulk of the body is actually made up of aluminum, including this handle here. I don't think it's solid aluminum, but it looks very sturdy. It feels very sturdy, and I don't think there's any amount of flex anywhere. You rattle the speaker, you try to shake it, and nothing is rattling inside. supported by 4 rubber feet, so that when you place it on any flat surface, it is not going to move around or it's not going to rattle on any solid surfaces because of the bass frequencies that are playing. Now, this is a battery powered device, meaning to say you can actually charge it via the USB-C port right at the back, and a full charge will carry you for about 12 hours, depending on how you play it, depending on how loud it goes. But 12 hours. I haven't tested it out in full, but because it's made by Anker, I tend to believe that they are true to specs. Now, behind this rubber flap here, there is a USB-C port, like I mentioned, for charging. There is also a 3.5mm analog input jack. Now, why? And this is for line in, right? But why is it covered by a plastic flap or rubber flap here? Because this unit is actually water resistant. Now, you can actually dump it in water, but most of it is supposed to be for in-room, in-house, indoor usage. But rest assured, if you bring this to the pool, you're not gonna have a problem. It doesn't actually have dust resistance, so it's IPX7. X means no dust resistance, but 7 means you can put it under water. It's not a problem. So it will be water resistant, but maybe not fine dust, and beach might not be a very good idea. So right on the top of the unit, you'll see a row of buttons flanking the SkyDriver. There's a power on off button which is indented, so you can actually press it. The buttons are all tactile, so there is a click to it. There's a Bluetooth button here to pair to any devices. So this connects via Bluetooth, or you can use the line-in port, like I mentioned. There is one more button for spatial audio. When you turn on the spatial audio, the monster wakes up. And there's a bass up button. I'll let you listen to these differences in just a little bit. And on the right side of the SkyDriver, you have your volume control buttons, plus and minus, and the play pause button, which doubles up as a skip track or a return to previous track button by double clicking or triple clicking respectively. Now, this costs $199 US. In Singapore, it amounts to over $300. So what compares to it? Maybe the Sonos One. The Sonos One is probably going to cost around the same price. Well, there's a price bump to the Sonos One, so that probably costs a little bit more. But that's a smart speaker. But this guy here is not a smart speaker. You can actually link it to your phone via Bluetooth, and you will still be able to use Siri or any voice assistant that is on your phone by activating that. And there is also a mic on this device which you can use. The other comparison is probably the Apple HomePods Mini, right? That one of them is $99 and a pair of them will set you back about $200, which is about the same price. So the advantage of that is that it is definitely stereo and you can place them quite far apart, but I guarantee you the bass is nowhere close to the monster in my hands right now. So all the 5 drivers on these speakers, they are individually amped, except the passive radiator, which is the 6th driver. Technically, it is not powered at all. So all the power from the 5 different amps are going to be powering the 5 active drivers, which leads me to the 2 features that I want to talk about, which is the spatial audio as well as the bass up function. Now, the bass up function, the bass level, if you don't actually engage the bass, you will hear it and you'll think that it is all right. But the moment you press bass up, it sounds a lot larger. The bass doesn't sound like it's coming from a speaker of this size. Now, I'm going to be recording a little bit so that you can tell the difference with the bass up on and the spatial audio on and off. Now, for spatial audio, it doesn't actually require your music provider to stream spatial audio. It is not an Atmos driver, but it processes any stereo music source into spatial audio, and the effect is actually pretty convincing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test out these 2 functions. I have the Soundcore actually paired up to my Mac OS MacBook actually. So yep, the pairing is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my binaural microphones and I will start recording what I'm hearing so that you have a better idea of what actually it sounds like when the bass up and the spatial audio features are turned on. So here we go. So the mics are actually embedded into my ear canal. So what I'm hearing is actually what you will be hearing as well. And I guarantee you the effects will be quite good. Now, I have here a YouTube video which I posted only for my members section. I'm just going to play a small snippet from it so that you get a better idea. Now, if you're interested to join in as a member, do click the join button. I think it's somewhere right there. You can take a look at it, but it does require some monetary contribution. You don't have to do that, but if you do, I thank you for your support. So I'm going to be hitting record on my Rodecaster Pro, and now it's recording via the binaural microphone stereo. Okay, so I'm going to hit play and you will hear the Soundcore Motion X600 without bass up function and without the spatial audio. So that was without the bass up function. I will turn on the bass up function after 5 seconds. So that was with the bass up function. You can clearly and distinctly hear the amount of bass has jumped up from the Soundcore Motion X600. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to play a short passage without spatial audio, and then I will be turning spatial audio on after about 10 seconds or so. So I'm going to test another track, and this time I'm going to start off without the bass up function and without the spatial audio, and I'm going to turn both on at the same time about 10 seconds into the track, and you will hear for yourself what a difference it makes. Let's try some vocals. The volume is currently set about 60%, and one thing I have to let you know about this particular setup is that this recording was actually recorded once over via the binaural mic, and I am playing back that recording to be played here on the Soundcore Motion X600, which I'm then recording again to you via YouTube. So there's some degradation in the sound quality already, but bear in mind, what you're hearing is basically what the Soundcore Motion X600 is capable of. So one thing I noted is that the Soundcore Motion X600 is relatively popular right now. I think it's trending on YouTube because there are a lot of reviewers reviewing it. And one of the reviewers, not really on YouTube actually, is DXO. So DXOMark has been rating cameras and smartphones for quite a while now, and I realized that they started rating speakers as well. So below $200 on the DXOMark website, this is actually rated the best speaker. It's ranked first for across any other speakers that is being compared to below $200. In fact, it is above the Sonos One even. And even if you disregard the price, this still makes the top 20. All right, disregarding price is the 20th ranking speaker. Now it's up against B&W, B&O, and Devillet, beating out a lot of established names like Sony and Apple as well. So you don't have to take my word for it, but you can probably trust DXOMark. And if you take a look, I'll probably put the link down in the description below. You can take a look. Ranked number 1 across any speaker below $200 US. So I've covered the bass up function and I've covered the spatial audio, but that is not all there is to the Soundcore X600. Now, the thing about this Soundcore X600, it is actually not within the speaker itself. The best feature of this speaker is not in the feature, it is actually in the companion app. Now, there is an app that is Soundcore, of course, available on both Android as well as iOS. And let me just launch this for you and I'll walk you through what is the most important. Now, I have it now paired to my iPhone, so pairing is actually not very difficult. You can switch between the two. It will remember up to 6 devices and you're paired to the last device that it was connected to when it is powered up. Now, when you go in, you will see that the Motion X600 is already connected. If I click through to it, okay, there's a play pause button there, so easy, and the volume slider is there as well. Now the app is superbly responsive. Now what do I mean by superbly responsive? So if you go into the app right here, you can see I will have the bass up function here, so I can actually control it via the button on the unit itself, or I can control it via the companion app. Now if I turn it off and on, the response on the speaker is actually almost instantaneous. Look at it, all right? And it's just connected via Bluetooth, right? And the other one that I want to talk about is actually the equalizer. Now, this is the best feature of the Soundcore Motion X600, which is the equalizer. Now, I wish every single manufacturer for sound products creates an equalizer function like this. This is like nothing else. All right, so let me just walk through. There's a preset here. So there are a couple of presets. One is a Soundcore signature and the other one is the voice, and one treble boost and one is balance, right? So if you look at the Soundcore signature, this is the equalizer that they have imagined it to be. If you turn off the bass boost, the bass frequencies will get cut off a little bit. If you turn on bass boost, it will boost up the frequencies for the bass. Now, for voice, it will emphasize the mid-range, and for treble boost, it will actually push up the treble quite a bit. Now, the EQ on this is actually very sensitive. When you push up bass, when you push up treble, you are actually going to hear something audible. But this is not all to it, right? Because when you click onto custom, right? So you don't want to use the preset, you want to use the custom, it actually shows up an equalizer that has 9 different bands ranging all the way from 80 Hz to 12 kHz. So you can control any frequency to any amount. So here I have a -8 range all the way to a +8 range. Yeah, +8 range here, right? And I'm controlling that specific frequency. But again, this is not all. So because there are some other products that has 9, 10 bands frequency equalizer, and those are actually right on par with this 9-band equalizer here. But what is very interesting about it is you can actually click on full band right here. It rotates to a landscape mode. And it is not as simple as having a full screen mode for adjusting equalizer. If you tap on any of these individual band, you can actually adjust the frequency down to 1 decimal point, all right? And you can move that up or down, right? So if take a look at it. Now, click away, you move to another frequency, you click this, another frequency again. You might not want to change 600 Hz, you might want to change 536 Hz, you want to change 706 Hz, 706.2 Hz, right? And you can move that up and down. So, I mean, just check out how versatile this whole equalizer setup is. If I wanted the sound to sound really wonky, I could do it, right? It is really up to me. So this becomes the equalized sound coming out from the Soundcore. You can really fine-tune this speaker to your liking. So it is no longer important what the sound manufacturer thinks you like, how you like your music. It is no longer important because you can customize it infinitely, not limited to a single frequency band. You can choose the frequency band that you want to adjust and you can move it up and down. Now, this doesn't have a Q factor where it adjusts how broad it changes, but because you are able to do a full band, you can actually bring the frequency curve a lot further away such that the frequency fall off after the adjustment is milder, or a lot more aggressive, like what you are seeing right here. So to me, this is the best function. Now I wish every single speaker that I have at home, every manufacturer follows this particular implementation. If anything, I understand now why so many people are crazy about the Soundcore Motion X600. The sound on itself, it will blow you away, but the ability to tweak the frequency, tweak the equalizer, it is truly, truly amazing. Now, I don't have much more to say about this, except that I think this, if you spend $200 on it, $199 is probably money quite well spent. I wanted to use this as an alternative to the speakers that's coming out from my Apple Studio display. And why? Because I realized that actually by placing it right here and turning on spatial audio, it throws a much wider stereo soundstage than the studio monitor speakers are able to do so. And there's a lot more bass because of passive radiator as well. But the only problem is this handle, right? If I put it right where I want it to be, the top of the speaker panel, it actually flushes just right below where the screen is. It's fine, but the handle is protruding into my screen image, which means I can't really use it. I could move it a little bit further such that the angle from where I'm sitting, it doesn't obstruct the view, but the handle. I wish there was an easy way to remove this, but it is not that easy. I'm sure with some force I'm able to do it and unscrew the handle, but it is such a well-engineered piece of device. I don't really want to ruin this, and I will probably destroy the waterproofing function of this speaker. So that's all I have to it. If you are interested in any of my other videos, check out one of these recommended videos right here, and I'll see you over in one of those videos.